How do you explain an economy like China? Come with me while I tell you a little bit more about how the Chinese economy is a lot like a car.
Okay, let's go.
Look at what's really powering the world's second largest economy and where it's headed. And to start off, I'm going to use a slightly smaller car to give you an example. First of all, you need gas. We're talking about fiscal stimulus or loosened monetary policy or maybe deregulation. You put your gas in and then you put the pedal to the floor and whoosh, off we go. And while you're driving, you've got to keep your hands on the wheel, because if you don't, you could veer off into the wrong lane. Worst case scenario could be that you veer off and you crash. Indeed, yes, very good. This year, the government is expected to set the growth target at around 6.5%. And I've got some data that I can pull down here from the roof.
China's GDP increased by 6.7% in 2016. Although the slowest in 26 years, it still topped many other major economies and contributed 1/3 of the global growth. This year's target, set in the region of 6.5%, is slightly slowing down.
People often forget that China is still in a transition. It's in this period that's characterised by the mass movement of people from the countryside into the cities because they're seeking work. Obviously, growth is really, really closely linked to this market. A bigger engine is going to need more fuel, and more GDP needs more jobs. If you have like a small car, a little runaround, say a 2-cylinder engine, there is no way that all those human resources needed to power the economy are going to fit into that combustion engine. So basically what we're going to need, a bigger car. A bigger car. Another thing is that maintaining a constant speed. So at the moment we're doing a nice, but I can see that your legs and your arms are working very hard to maintain that. There are some economists out there that say that China's slowdown means that the country is on a road to ruin. That's misguided. A huge car like China, which has a powerful engine under the hood, needs to be handled very, very carefully if the driver is going to stay in control. You're going to have to adjust your driving style. This is something that everyone does that is driving. You might know the route, but you never know what dangers are going to be around this next corner, right? In the same way, rather than pushing growth for the sake of smashing growth records, China's policymakers are more concerned with stability. Fast and Furious sounds really good in movies, right? But when we're away from the big screens and in economic terms, too much money is going to cause a bubble. And bubbles are not good. So China's begun to feather the brakes, and it started to roll out what it calls a prudent and neutral monetary policy. China's fine-tuning of its economy is all about upgrading from one that used to run on exports to one that is in a much more desirable model in terms of what policymakers believe, and that's one that's driven by consumption and innovation. Think of it like the rev counter that's on every dashboard. When the needle hits 2,500 RPM, you know that you're going to have to change gear, right? Exactly. Because if you don't change gear, that car is going to stall. We need to engage the clutch, we need to stabilise the car, change gear and accelerate again. Similarly to how people are now starting to buy electric cars or hybrid cars, China is also trying to make its economy go green.
China's total energy consumption will be capped at 5 billion tonnes of coal equivalent by 2020. The share of non-fossil fuels will rise to more than 15%, and the share of natural gas will reach 10% by 2020.
In fact, you can actually see this happening with the people in China. More and more people are actually parking their cars up and using public transport or bike sharing schemes, which are huge in Beijing. Everyone has a long journey ahead, and it might tire us out, but let's not grind to a halt at the side of the road. Let's all work together for a better future.
Don't forget, we always need a good driver, right?
I think that's it. That's the takeaway with this. Everyone needs a good driver.